TV Live 24/7 spoke to Prime Avilas, the legal consultant of the Universal Allied Advocates, in regard to the anti-conversion law. And this is what the legal consultant of the Universal Allied Advocate said about the anti-conversion law. Let's listen to what he has said.
Well, it is said that a person cannot choose if he doesn't know what choices are open to him. This perfectly applies in the cases of religion too. Nevertheless, choice of religion cannot be equated with that of a choice between political and other kinds of opinions. Right to choose is implicit in the freedom of conscience. As humans, we are born free with a natural right of choice. Freedom of religious conscience includes the freedom to choose to keep, to abandon, or change a particular religion. The freedom of religious conscience encompasses the right to persuade others by means of teaching, for example through missionary activities, without which the right to change religion or faith would run the danger of remaining a dead letter. The prohibition of proselytism, and in particular a lack of its definition, constitutes a restriction in the freedom to propagate one's religion or faith. It is essential to see whether the right of persuasion is included within the right of propagation, and if so, then in case where persuasion results in change of faith, could it be termed as conversion? Say, if someone persuades an individual apropos following a particular religion, then as a rational human being having basic understanding of what is right and wrong, the individual being so persuaded has every right not to get persuaded. Persuasion by itself is guilt-free and therefore it cannot be offensive. There is no ground justifying conversions brought about by violence or other illegitimate means of coercion. Forceful conversions basically violate the principle of freedom of conscience and constitute one of the gravest human rights violations. Thus, it can be said that the state is justified in making a law for keeping check the conversions brought about by illegitimate means and for the purpose of protecting freedom of conscience. But on examining the statutes existing on various anti-conversion laws implemented by the different states, we realize their impropriety as the language and terminology adopted by these legislations go far beyond the protection of this right and in no way appears to be motivated by the desire to protect freedom of conscience. For example, the terminology conversion as defined in the anti-conversion laws implemented in the states of Odisha, Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh and Himachal Pradesh means renouncing one religion and adopting another. Using a different phraseology, the Gujarat Act defines convert as meaning to make one person renounce one religion and adopt another religion. The Rajasthan, Arunachal Pradesh, Chhattisgarh Act are unique in the sense that their definition of conversion excludes reconversion. The Rajasthan Act applies the term conversion only to renunciation of one's own religion and adopting another. Here, own religion is explained as the religion of one's forefathers. Similarly, the Chhattisgarh Act excludes returning to one's forefathers' religion from the definition of conversion. So this distinction between conversion and reconversion is the biggest anomalies of the Act, as they clearly differentiate between religions and infringes Article 14 of the Indian Constitution. It is quite hard to comprehend that if induced conversion is an offense, then why induced reconversion is not considered as an offense. Generally, the legislators endeavor to prohibit forcible conversions, but in the statutes the definition of the word force is very critical in nature, as it is uncertain as to how this definition will operate in practice. Say, for example, if a religion teaches that all non-adherents risk divine displeasure, and in the case with all Abraham, as is the case with say all the Abrahamic religions, then the act of imparting this article of faith may constitute an act of force under anti-conversion legislations. So this overtly broad definition of force unjustifiably impinges on the interactions between potential converts and those seeking to bring about their conversion. The latter are rendered unable to inform the former of what their religion teaches about non-adherence, thus limiting the information that can be made available to the potential convert, and thereby impinging on the meaningful exercise of his or her freedom to change religion. There are two more terms in the anti-conversion statute that need critical analysis, and those are allurement and inducement. The cause of concern here is that charitable acts are fundamental to certain religions, and any broad interpretation given to these two terms may restrict the freedom of its adherents to meaningfully practice their religious beliefs. It is conceivable that the provision of educational facilities or medical care by certain religious denominations might also be interpreted as some sort of temptation intended to induce conversion. So these definitions of these terms leave much uncertainty as to which activities remain permissible and which are prohibited. Another problematic definition in this anti-conversion laws is that of the word fraudulent means. Now, Rajasthan and Gujarat Acts state that fraudulent means and includes misrepresentation or any other fraudulent contrivance. Himachal, Odisha, Arunachal and Madhya Pradesh Act state that fraud shall include misrepresentation or any other fraudulent contrivance. This imprecision of the definition is apparent. Say, for instance, if an individual was told that he or she would feel closer to God, but on conversion, the converted person did not feel the expected degree of spirituality, then can such a person claim to have been misrepresented? These ambiguous terms would be a stumbling block for all the law enforcement agencies when they have to differentiate between legitimate and illegitimate conversion. Thus, this results in granting greater discretion to the enforcement agencies. As the anti-conversion laws gives ample room to misuse, it is viewed specifically as a measure against the minorities. The vagueness of terms and the fear of misuse can create an element of suspicion in the minds of minorities, which is not a good sign for a secular democracy.